So today we have a very special guest, uh, Dr. Sailesh Rao. He's the founder of Climate Healers, a nonprofit dedicated towards healing Earth's climate. He holds PhD from Stanford University. He's a proud alumni of IIT Madras. He has authored 4 books, 22 peer-reviewed technical papers. He calls himself as a heal activist, and he describes further human, earth, animal liberation activist. How interesting is that? And he calls animals as our relatives. His work is already featured in award-winning film Countdown to Year Zero and several other documentaries. I can go on. There are a lot of achievements and credentials he holds, but his focus is on solving environmental crisis affecting humanity. So, Dr. Sailesh Rao, welcome. It's a privilege to have you on the show. Before I ask anything to you, I would like to mention, and I quote, that a man who thinks about a betterment of this planet Earth is no less than a saint. The first question that comes to my mind is the prediction. Why 2026? I read there that world will be vegan before 2026. Is it something prediction based on some kind of research, or you just know there is something going to happen by this time?
It's partly research and partly it came to me from circumstances. So what happened was, I'm an engineer, and when I look at numbers, I try to predict what will happen going forward, and then figure out how are we going to change the trajectory. Right, that's what I do for a living. So the World Wildlife Fund Living Planet Report is a survey of over 5,000 species, randomly selected, and it has been monitoring the total weight of that species since 1970. And they issue a report every 2 years. And it takes them 4 years to compile the data. So in 2014, they issued a report saying that between 1970 and 2010, we wiped out 52% of all wild animals by weight.
Wow.
Okay. Now that's with respect to 1970. We know that between 10,000 years ago and 1970, we'd already wiped out 60% of all the wild animals on the planet by total weight. So I put that together and I said, okay, that means they're almost 80% gone, more than 80% gone, right? And then I extrapolated to see how many more years do we have before we wipe them out completely. And I came up with the number 2026. And I was shocked when I made that calculation because my prediction was based on economic growth. I assumed that as the economy grows, we kill more wild animals.
Right.
Okay, so that was my prediction. And so when I did that, and I was shocked, and I thought maybe my models are wrong. I'm just, if this is true, everyone should be screaming about it from the rooftops, right? And we should be doing something about it. It's like your house is on fire. You should be acting as if your house is on fire. So I thought maybe my calculations are wrong. So I waited for the next report to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And that came out in 2016, because it comes out every 2 years. And he said that between 1970 and 2012, we wiped out 58% of all wild animals. So in 2 years, we went from 52 to 58. And at that rate, if you just do a linear extrapolation, you're going to hit 100% by 2026.
Wow.
Right? So this came out on October 24th, 2016. And I call that the second day, the second most important day in my life. The first was when I was born. The second is when I found out why I was born.
That's awesome.
Because that day, I was reading a story to my granddaughter to put her to bed. At the end of the story, she put her head on my shoulder and she said, "Grandpa, who were the first human beings?"
Mm-hmm.
Now, I promised her that I'll never ever lie to her. So I tried to explain evolution to my granddaughter. I said, imagine that you're standing on the street and you're holding your mother by your hand. And you ask your mother to bring her mother to stand by her side. And so on. You create a long line of mothers on this side of the street. And the other side of the street, you ask a chimpanzee to do the same thing with her mother and her grandmother and so on. When these two lines go from Phoenix to Tucson, they'll merge.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 100 miles. They'll merge because both lines are going to say, hey, that's my mama too. Immediately she just sat up in bed. She said, what? Are you telling me that animals are my family? And I said, well, now that you put it that way, yeah, they are your family. She
Right.
said, then why are people eating my family?
Oh,
Grandpa,
that's
make them stop. They're eating my family. She started naming names of people she knows who are eating her family.
mm-hmm.
And I was trying to console her. And I said, Kimaya, this is what I do. It's my job to make them stop. Immediately she stopped crying. She looked at me. This is your job? This is your
Mm-hmm.
job? You haven't done your job? Then she said, do your job. She shook her finger in my face. Do your job. Then she asked me, when will you do your job?
Mm-hmm.
And I blurted out, I better do it by 2026, otherwise we are in big trouble. She
Mm.
said, will you promise me that? I said, okay, I'll promise you that. She said, will you give me a pinky promise? I said, okay, I'll give you a pinky promise. And then she asked me to hold
Okay.
out my pinky, and I had no idea what it meant. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
She asked me to hold out my pinky. She locked the pinky in mine and she said, you can never, ever break a pinky promise. And at that point, I realized I had made a very serious promise, okay,
Mm.
on behalf of our generation to her generation, that we are going to solve the problem. Because this spiral, this death spiral cannot continue.
Right, right, right.
Okay. So we are in a death spiral for
Mm.
biodiversity. And I said, we have to halt it by 2026. And that means we all have to go vegan.
We have to go vegan.
And that allows 40% of the land area of the planet to be returned back to nature.
Wow.
And it literally puts out the fire on the planet. So when I say there's a fire on our planet, I'm talking about the life support systems on the planet that we have transgressed.
Mm-hmm.
Human activities have made us transgress the life support systems in terms of freshwater use, in terms of land use, in terms of the amount of carbon they're emitting into the atmosphere, in terms of the amount of nitrogen and phosphorus they're extracting from the atmosphere and from the environment, in terms of how much chemicals you're pouring into the environment, and
Right, right.
finally, in terms of how much biosphere integrity we are ripping apart the web of life. Okay? We are killing species, we're killing animals, and we're destroying the web of life. And so that also is beyond control, is beyond the limit. So
Mm-hmm.
these six, they're known as planetary boundary transgressions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the Stockholm Resilience Center has identified these six as the major planetary boundary transgressions. And I'm pointing out if the world goes vegan and we return 40% of the land back to nature, and
Mm-hmm.
then we give the entire ocean back to nature, all six of these you can pull down into the green zone
So
from
is
the
this
red zone.
that global transformation?
Yeah. If we
Oh,
do a global transformation, everyone eats plants and we have enough food to feed everybody. Okay. So no one has to go hungry anymore. Everyone will get their nutrition that they need. If we did that, then we all can collectively go and restore the forests on 40% of the land. So we have to create an economy around restoration of ecosystems,
oh.
not around extraction from the planet. See, right now we congregate in cities in order to
Mm-hmm.
extract from the planet.
Right.
So all the corporations are there to figure out, okay, what are you going to do to extract from the planet? What are you going to do to extract from the planet? And they're assigning us jobs as to go and extract from the planet, right? That's the kind of cities we have built. So now we have to create communities around restoration of the planet.
Restoration of the planet. Yeah, I like that term.
Yeah. How
Yes.
do you how do we restore the forest that used to be there? I mean, especially if you look at uh, where forests have been destroyed in the last 300 years or 400 years, we have historical data.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly in India. We wiped out the forests. There used to be 80% of India was covered by forests. We
That's,
wiped it out.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you, I was recently visited and devastating. Everywhere there is a building, constructions, roads, and so
Yeah.
much greenery was there, it's not there anymore.
Right.
Uh, so it's horrible to see the way it's been changed. Uh,
Right.
and I think you're right. India is suffering a lot.
So you have to switch the objective function of our
Hmm.
economy. Right now, the objective function of our economy is to extract as much as we can, and it's a free for all fight. Who's going to get how much,
Right.
right? And so that's the kind of game we are playing. It's a free, and instead we have to play a different game where the objective function is to restore the planet, and we all get supported to do that. It's like if you're a firefighter,
Hmm.
no one is going to come and say, you cannot eat unless you go and serve somebody else,
Right, 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 right,
right? All firefighters are taken care of so that they can fight the fires.
right. And so, how this animal agriculture plays role in this whole
Yeah,
transformation?
basically, if you look at how we are using land on the planet, okay,
Hmm.
right now, all the built land, all the buildings, cities, railroads, highways put together, it's only 1% of the land area of the planet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's only 1%. But we
1%.
only go to the built area and we see only the built area, so we don't see the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Then 19% is unused land and deserts, mountains. There's nothing you can do there. It's deserts and mountains. There's no life there either. I mean, not much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then 22% is monocultured forests, meaning it's basically same pine tree everywhere because it's being grown so that we can chop it and turn it into
Right. Lumber.
paper or wood or whatever,
Yeah.
right? So it's timberland, 22%.
Mm-hmm.
9% is original forests,
Wow. Just
okay?
9%.
Just 9%. Then 37% is grazing land for animal agriculture,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And then half of the cropland is another 12%, but half of the cropland output is used to feed animals. So which means you need to add another 6% to the 37%. That's 43% of the land area of the planet. And that's from animal agriculture. And that is providing us with only 12% of the food we eat
Really?
in terms of total weight. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
85% of the food we eat is already plants. And that's coming from 6% of the land area of the planet.
Really, 85% is that's hard to believe. So look at this all big restaurants serving steak and
Right, right.
muttons and lamb and
So
that's
what you should do is don't look at restaurants, go to a supermarket.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Look at the total weight of animal foods they sell and the total weight of plant foods they sell.
Oh, right. Interesting. Yes. Now I see that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's 85% is plant foods,
Mhm.
12% is animal foods from land animals, and then 3% is from the ocean. Okay.
Oh.
So now, in order to create animal agriculture, we have deforested so much land. In effect, we have cut down half the trees on the planet. There used to be 5 to 6 trillion trees on the planet 10,000 years ago. Now there are only 3 trillion trees. And those 3 trillion trees are mainly confined to the timberland, where 22%, and then
Mm-hmm.
9% of the original forest. So 31% of the land is holding most of those trees. But those trees and the soil that they live on are storing twice as much carbon as in the entire atmosphere and 4 times as much carbon as in all the fossil fuels we've burned to date. So now you calculate, say, wait a minute, if I can bring back the 3 trillion trees that we cut, can we not reverse climate change? Of course you can. You can completely compensate for what fossil fuels we have put into the atmosphere. We can reverse it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying we can completely reverse climate change. That's completely in our hands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we just pure vegetarian, meaning shakahari, right?
Shakahari.
So
Yeah.
vegan, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you go vegan, stop using animals for any purpose, not for milk, not for beef, not for mutton, not for anything, right? If we just give that land back to nature and restore the original forest on that land, we can reverse climate change. Now, is that enough?
Correct.
We can actually suck down all the CO2 from the atmosphere, and we
Mm-hmm.
can clean up all the chemical mess. But is that enough to restore the biodiversity? I don't know. Because we have torn up so much of the web of life, I don't know if that's enough to restore. So as a systems engineer, I'm saying the sooner we do this,
Mm-hmm.
the easier it will be for us. The longer you wait, it'll be harder and harder.
Right.
It's like saying, there's a fire in your home. Let's take a half an hour break, go have some coffee and come back. No, you don't do that. You try to put out the fire right away. Do we not?
Right, right. It's an
Yeah.
emergency.
It's an emergency.
Yes.
So we need to treat this as if we are in an ecological emergency.
Ecological emergency. I like that term.
Yeah. This is an ecological emergency.
I really, Binja, I appreciate the quality of terms you invent. One of the terms that you mentioned is vegan, which stands for vitally engaged guardians of animals and nature. How beautiful it is. I think you're
Yes.
just not a scientist or something, but I think there is a poet hidden inside somewhere.
Well, thank you, Jay.
And then there is another term called scrap, and which actually I believe it is a scrap. you know, which is kind of interestingly speciesism, colonialism, racism, and patriarchy. So how beautifully you put this. I think I will never forget this abbreviations. Uh, my next question that comes to my mind is, how about the impact of war on this climate?
Mhm.
You know, we
Yeah.
have wars, active wars happening. Here we are talking about restoration, but then here they are continuously bombarding the
Right.
weapons and bombs and whatnot,
Right. So war is part of the system today.
Mm.
Okay. It's a system of normalized violence. The system of extraction is a system of competition. Who's bigger than who? Who's better than who? That's the kind of
Right.
games we play. It's a competitive system, right? This is why when you divide yourself into countries, you're dividing yourself into nations that can be at war with each other. So there are 32 nations at war right now.
Wow.
Okay, if you look at the data, and there are 6 genocides happening right now. Okay. We only hear about 1 or 2.
Right. The big one, the
only
big players.
They say
Yeah.
it's the big one, but it really, in terms of the number of deaths, it's not even the big one. There's something going on in Sudan, which is even bigger, but no one talks about it. Hundreds of thousands of people are dying. So I say that we are being sort of managed with the news in order to just focus on one thing or the other and not realize that this is endemic. This is going on all the time. Because it's a system of normalized violence that we are in. Okay. And we are all being sort of factory farmed into being consumers. And when you consume, you're actually creating the conditions for war. You're saying, I want more and more and more for myself. There's competition.
Right.
And then you say, okay, China wants it. No, we want it. No, we fight over it. So this is, you say, what are they fighting over? It's like squabbling with each other. It's squabbling over toys with each other when the house is on fire. You don't do that.
Right.
You forget about the squabbling over toys. You put out the fire first. You haven't understood that there is a bigger danger around us than the firefighting, the wars that are going on. So, but the wars also cause the ecosystem to die off. It's another condition, another way in which we are killing life on the planet. Okay? Not only killing people, we're killing life. We're making it harder for life to thrive with the wars because we're exploding things, we're killing a bunch of life in the process. And so I say we have to go from a system of normalized violence to a system of normalized non-violence. Okay? When non-violence is normal. This is why I talk about human, earth, animal liberation. We have to liberate ourselves from the system we are in to start, becoming more spiritual, looking for happiness within. as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
looking for happiness outside,
Right,
which is
right.
what we are taught in the system. Look for happiness outside. I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
there isn't. It isn't out there. It's within you all the time, right? So it's about our liberation from the wrong ideas that they've educated into us. And then earth liberation. Earth liberation meaning don't put all these boundaries on earth and saying, this is mine, that's mine. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't belong. I mean, earth does not belong to you. You belong to the earth. You have to
Right.
look at it the other way around.
Yeah. No, I remember one proverb from South Africa. They say this earth is the gift for the next generation.
Yes, exactly.
It doesn't belong to you.
Yeah.
Since we mentioned India earlier,
Mm,
and I see the pain, and we experience it whenever we visit Bharat.
mm,
What would be your, you know, uh, recommendation? Means,
mm.
I would be very happy if you kind of do some kind of advisory to government of India or a PMO, and we run some kind of, you know, processes where we have dedicated people to restore the land.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, so what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. India has to reclaim her role as the spiritual heart of Mother Earth.
Spiritual heart. Beautiful.
That's what India has been. India
Hmm.
has been the fountain of religions,
Right, right, right.
right? And it's all fountain of this inquiry into who we are as a species
Mm-hmm.
and understanding ourselves. And so India has to become that. And India can then lead the world in this transformation from a climate heating civilization to a climate healing civilization.
Beautiful.
So I say it is really going from Homo sapiens to Homo ahimsa, which is a term
Nice.
that Judy Carman coined
Mm-hmm.
in her book, Peace to All Beings. And she took a Sanskrit word, ahimsa,
Ahimsa.
and connected it with the Latin word, homo. So that
Mm-hmm.
it becomes in a symbol of us coming together from around the world as one species. And what is Homo ahimsa? It's a
Mm-hmm.
non-violent hominid. What is Homo sapiens?
Mm-hmm.
It's the wise hominid. We call ourselves wise when we are doing foolish things, right? So
Right.
we need to recognize that we are the ones naming ourselves. And we shouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
naming ourselves based on, see how wise we are. The other
Right.
animals are looking at us saying, what do you mean you're wise? You don't know what the heck you're doing, right? So, so we have to now have some humility.
Right,
So
right.
acquire humility and then become Homo ahimsa. And what she points out is that we are born Homo ahimsa
Mm-hmm.
because a child would never hurt an animal.
Right,
The
right.
child would play with the animal and eat the apple, never, she will never eat the rabbit
Right.
and play with the apple. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so we have to go back to our childlike nature.
Mm.
And I say that this requires adults to be educated by children, to be de-educated by children.
De-educated. Yeah.
Yeah, because we were educated to becoming Homo sapiens. From Homo ahimsa, we were educated to become Homo sapiens. And Homo sapiens to me is um, uh, it's a dominating, deceiving species.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dominating species because it's those who are able to exercise more power, they're the ones who get the most rewards in the system,
Right, right,
right?
right.
And deceiving, meaning if you can deceive someone, you will get more rewards in the system.
Hmm.
Think about even the games we play, right? If you can pretend to bowl an off break and actually bowl a leg break,
Mm-hmm.
you will get the most rewards. So it's all about deception. in the system. It's all about deception. How can you play the game and, grab for yourself,
But
right?
what is the way out though? Because
The way
how?
out is to promote a system based on honesty and humility.
Wow, honesty
So
and
it has to be
humility,
open source.
open
No
source.
more, secrets, company secret. This is my secret.
Mm-hmm.
That's your secret. And it has to be all open source. So as if think of us running an engineering project with 8 billion engineers. How would you run that project?
Mm-hmm.
Well, whether we like it or not, there are 8 billion engineers and we have to run that project because this earth belongs to us, in the sense that when you are able to impact the life support systems of the planet to the point where life can die off, you have the
Mm-hmm.
power to destroy life, which means you also have the power to restore life.
Restore life. Right. Yeah. No, I would agree
Okay.
with you on that.
Yeah. So which means that we have to now organize around restoring life.
Restoring
And when
life.
you organize around restoring life, that's an engineering project. And in any engineering project that I've run, I made sure that every team member feels like they belong,
Mm-hmm.
right? Only then can you run a successful engineering project. Every team member has to feel like they belong and that they are part of something much larger, that they're
Mm-hmm.
contributing to the whole, you know? So each person picks a particular aspect of this and says, okay, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do that and contribute that. So I say that we are all here at this time because nature is expecting us to do this restoration work.
Right. Right. So that brings me to your to my next question to you is,
Mm.
what is next for you now? See, I was going through your achievements, and I was like, every time I'm reading something, I was feeling, oh my God, I'm so insignificant.
Oh,
The
no.
amount of things you have done, achieved, or shared with the rest of the world. Because I can only say one thing, that if we have more people like you, this world will be a more meaningful and more beautiful place. Uh,
Well,
how
you are,
is
you,
a person like me, or a person who doesn't understand all these statistics and the reasoning and the scholarly mind behind this, what they can do to contribute towards this restoration?
yeah, absolutely. See, that's a great question. And so I'm saying we are all here at this time because we each have a gift,
Mm-hmm.
so we have to now help each other find your gift.
Find your
What is
gift.
this gift you have to give now to the earth?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because so far we have been in a taking mode. Who can
Take.
take the most, right? Now
Mm-hmm.
you are now you're going to be transforming to a giving mode. Who can give the most, and who is
Mm-hmm.
giving, right? So I'm just I'm just a conduit. I'm not
Right.
anything special. Just a conduit. I just happen to be there at the right time, at the right place, with the right knowledge, so I can do
Mm-hmm.
this kind of work. And now, uh, it's always the systems engineer gets involved first in solving any problem because the systems engineer has to figure out how to solve the problem. And then once I have an idea of how to solve the problem, I have to come up with a model for how we're going to go about doing it. And then I
Mm-hmm.
have to get people to buy into the model and then start implementing according to the model. So my model now is to say, we all have to get healthy first.
Healthy. Yes.
We all have to get healthy first because if human beings are sick, they're not going to be helpful in restoring the planet
Correct. Correct.
because they'll be thinking about their own ill health, right? So you have to get healthy first, and
Mm-hmm.
so we have to help people get healthy first,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's the first step. That's the oxygen mask rule, putting on your own oxygen mask before helping others. And
Correct.
then we have to restore forests everywhere. We have to
Restore for.
first create water retention structures that water
Mm-hmm.
is retained from the rain. And then we have to plant the native seeds in that area so that the native forest can come back.
Mm-hmm.
And when you restore all that, the animals will come back. And if the animals don't come back, we have to figure out who hasn't come back, why haven't they come back, and how
Right.
can we plug that hole in the
Mm-hmm.
ecosystems? Because each animal was doing something to keep the ecosystem going. And if you don't plug that hole, then the ecosystem will collapse.
Right.
Okay.
So that brings me to my last question to you. So what is next for you? What
Well, right now I'm focused on 2026,
2026?
getting I mean, uh, spreading the message about the ecological emergency, and that there is a solution to the ecological emergency, which is to go vegan and rewild the planet. That's my main focus now, getting the message about the ecological emergency and the solution to it. And that the solution is in our hands 3 days a week. I mean, 3 times a day. It's in our hands. Okay. We can literally change the entire system by just choosing to eat plants. Eat plants only, wear plants only. So stop exploiting animals consciously. Okay? When we stop exploiting animals consciously, then the system will have to change to accommodate us. And we'll be talking about, okay, how do we do this? Because these people are demanding just this. How do you make this happen, right? So everyone will be changing what they're growing. So you have a tremendous impact on the producers through what you consume. Right? And then, once you have majority of people going vegan, then the politicians have to listen to us.
Right. Because they need majority at the end of the day.
Right? So I say that we have the power to deal with this ecological emergency from the grassroots. They do not have the power to deal with it.
Right.
You see that politicians don't have the power right now. We have the power.
Yeah.
They are stuck. They have to listen to the corporate people who are saying sell more and more and more, right?
Profit,
so corporations are always about selling more and more and more and more. We should be about health.
No, I think this is great.
I'll send you a link to our convergence, which happens every 3 months.
Okay.
The next one is happening in person in Scottsdale if you want to come, November 8th and 9th.
Awesome. See, this is a great initiative and it's very close to my heart. I'm a vegetarian. I tried to be vegan, but it was very difficult for me because I love milk and all the sweets from India are made by milk.
Yeah. I was in exactly the same situation as you, but I worked around it. And I can show you how I did that. I can help you with that.
Beautiful.